Marco Crossland, mate, thanks for coming by.
Pleasure, Adam. Great to be here.
Of course,
Beautiful, hot, sunny, sweating Sydney. So it's great.
course.
Great to be in my jacket.
Mate, of course, let's do it. Man, I really want to touch on this podcast. So I'm a strong man of Christian faith. I really want to touch on your story, but I want to take you back to begin with. So what's your purpose? Like, you do a lot of things like in the world, Michael. What do you like? What's your purpose? What's your driver?
Very open question.
Hmm.
You know, I think that for everybody listening and for everybody on the planet, that purpose, that driver, that what gets us out of bed constantly evolves and
Mm.
constantly changes. You know, corporate days, I wanted to create mass amounts of wealth. Transitioning into humanitarian world, I wanted to make a difference in people's lives that were less fortunate. And then
Mm.
transitioning into speaking, yeah, I want to make a difference in every area of so many people and so many different industries' lives. And now,
Mm.
as you know, I'm so blessed and so grateful to get out of bed and do what I do, and
Mm.
hopefully, leave my mark on the world, but make the world a little better place than what I found it.
Yeah, beautiful. So for the listeners that don't know your story too well, Michael, take me back all the way to the beginning.
It's been a wild
It's
one.
been a big story.
Yeah, I'll try and condense it as tight
For
as I
sure.
can, so I don't take
Time
up
is
all
your
the
flight.
time speaking. Yeah, but
course.
so my journey began 11 months of age. I was diagnosed with an incurable cancer of the central nervous system, stage 4 neuroblastoma. They told me there was no chance of survival to go home, but we ended up going down the path of chemo anyway. We had nearly 3 years of chemo, then had surgery and they didn't get it all. So then we started a trial drug, which they trialed on 25 people around the world. And unfortunately, 24 of them died within 90 days. And the side effects, the after effects were, and we were burnt from head to toe. We were covered in blisters. To try and keep us alive, they would lie us in bars full of ice, trying to prevent our brains from frying. And I
Wow.
I say that I was one of the lucky ones, but I never say I'm one of the lucky ones because I'm sitting here talking to you. I say I'm one of the lucky ones because I wasn't my mum.
Mm.
I didn't have to make the choice to inject a drug into her child that has killed everybody that ever taken it. And I've realized at very recent times that it's so much easier lying in the bed than standing next to it. And
Mm.
that for me was such a powerful perspective at such a young age to realize that I truly am the fortunate one. And that has really served me greatly in dealing with anger and frustration and failure and resentment, because I realized that I had it easier than mum, and
Mm.
mum had it easier than those that didn't get to take their kids home. I was burned for 18 months, and I was told I'd never go to school, I'd never play sport, I'd be a housebound baby, and if I reached my teenage years, it'd be a miracle. And as you know, I was fortunate enough to go to school. I
Yeah.
graduated high school. I loved the game of baseball, and my dream was to play baseball in America. And I was lucky enough to have that opportunity when I was 14, representing the Australian Expos. And then that progressed to when I was 17, signing a scholarship to play baseball and go to school over there. And but there was many health challenges along the way. I had my first heart attack when I was 12, and
Wow.
then only after 6 months of living in America, my health deteriorated again, and my career was over before it began.
Mm.
Came back to Australia, as you know, did a TV show on Australian Story, which was a lot of fun. Then got into the corporate world, got into banking, climbed the corporate ladder way too quickly. Within sort of 4.5 years, I had sort of a national role with
Mm.
600 staff, reporting to the CEO, was driven by the 3 Ps that destroy people, which I'm sure we'll reflect back on, but power, privileges, and possessions. And I chased materialistic wealth and realized that regardless of obtaining it, I was empty and I was alone. And it took me to hit rock bottom in 2010, bacterial meningitis, fluid on the brain, lost all my mum's money, for me to wake up to myself and realize what was important. And that's when I went on this path of trying to make the world a bit better place than what I found it. And we opened a school and an orphanage
Wow.
overseas because we couldn't have kids. And then I got diagnosed in 2016 with more tumors of the throat. And then I wrote a book, which is now a bestseller in 6 countries, and we donate all the profits to charity. And then whether you want me to share it now or not, but in 2017, our world changed forever. And after being told all my life I'd never be able to have a child, and then being able to make that happen was a miracle, and
Mm.
also the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. And I know now that I could never carry the weight and the burden of that pain without leaning in my faith. And to now be on the other side of that darkness and to have such great joy and great laughter and great happiness, I realized that we must embrace the coolness of the shadows to enjoy the warmth of the sunshine. And now I get to enjoy that warmth, and it feels good, you know. And then again, my health took another turn in 2022, where they found 6 more tumors in my throat, and I really replaced all my fear of dying with my faith in God, and that served me beautifully. And now, sitting here across from you, cancer free, having the incredible opportunity to travel the world, you know, I'm doing 180 to 200 flights a year, 20 odd countries, and getting a chance to really, hopefully, make people's lives better. And you know, my job is to not go into corporates like this afternoon and inspire that group to make the company more money. My hope is that they go home and they be a better mum, they be a better dad, they be a better friend, they be a present parent. They look into the kids' eyes and not let the kids look into their forehead whilst they're playing on their phones. And you know, I just hope that I can instill perspective in the hearts of those that need it, so that they can lead a better life.
Michael, what a story.
I don't think I've ever condensed it that quickly before, but hopefully people get the message.
Man, I want to touch on this. So, for someone like myself, coming from 2 broken families, you know, such an experience you went through, such a story. You know, how did that shape your perspective of family, just in general?
I think, yeah, I love my dad deeply. He's very unwell, but I love him immensely. And there was some things that happened when we were young, and you know, Dad taught me how not to be a dad.
Yeah.
And he taught me how not to be a husband. And I think so often in life we admire the traits in others that we want to implement in our life. But I think just as important, we need to acknowledge the traits in others that we do not admire to ensure that we do not implement that in our life. And I know that, you know, my beautiful kids will never feel the same pain that I felt or the fear that I felt. And I know my wife will never feel the same way that my mum felt. And, you know, that was his coping mechanism. And now I can reflect back on it and realize that that's how he dealt with the fear of his little boy dying. And, you know, fortunate enough, I'm still here, and I'm here to share the story. But I realize that, you know, it is such a remarkable opportunity, but a phenomenal responsibility to be a parent. And that's the legacy that we leave on this earth. So when we're so distracted by our phone, when we're so distracted by our perceived worth in the world of trying to have other people value us as opposed to the people that are the most important to value us. You know, I for a long time wanted the world to see me, to hear me, to be up in lights, to be the popular guy, to be the famous person. And now I really don't care about any of that. All I care about is, you know, my son and my beautiful daughter loving me for who I am, and hopefully having a positive impact on their life so that they can go on and lead remarkable lives as well.
So you're a father of 2 kids?
2 now, yeah.
2, nice. Congratulations.
So our little baby in 2017, we briefly touched on. Lockie, he was born 11 weeks early with a horrible illness called sepsis. We were told we had 5 days with him, and he's just turned 7 and going really well. And during COVID, we were in lockdown for 11 months, my wife and I and our little boy. And miraculously, my wife fell pregnant, and yeah, we had a baby, Summer Grace, on the 21st of January. So she's about to turn 4. So yeah, just you know, the greatest gift that God can bestow on any of us, I think, is to become a parent, and for that privilege and that blessing now, and to be a real present dad, to not have, you know, I never want my kids to ever see me on my phone. I want to have the phone drawer so that they know that they're the most important person in my life. You know, my son is my best friend, and my daughter is my greatest teacher, because she's a handful. She's a challenge, but we love her a bunch.
So going through all this now, so what's important for you as a father? Like, what's important for you as a father when it comes in terms of values? Like you mentioned before, being present, that's one. What else is really important for you?
I think perspective is really important in my kids. You know, they are going to lead and live a very privileged life, but I don't want them to think that turning left on a plane is normal.
Yes.
and I don't want them to think that driving a nice car
Yeah.
is guaranteed,
Mm.
and going on holidays is,
Mm.
I want them to understand that hard work
Mm.
is key. Kindness is key.
Mm.
Perspective is key. I remember hearing a great saying, and maybe many of your listeners have heard it before, but it's this great story. A man, he shares that he says, mate, something along these lines, but it was like, my grandfather, he walks 3 miles to work.
Mm.
My father drives a van. I drive a Range Rover. My son will probably drive a Lamborghini, and my grandson will walk to work.
Mm.
And it's this notion that hard times create tough men. Tough
Mm.
men create easy times create weak men, and weak men create hard times.
Mm.
I don't want that generation for my family. I don't want
Yeah.
my kids to have everything handed to them on a
Yeah.
silver platter and think that that's the standard and that's the expectation, because that creates a weak man, that
Yeah.
creates a weak woman, and not a man or woman that's filled with gratitude and appreciation and
Mm.
faith. And that's so key for us. So we want to make
Mm.
sure that even though we're in a position to be able to give them what they want, we just want to give them what they need
Mm.
so that they can get what they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're a man of faith, like myself.
Mm.
Was your faith journey through this whole transition as well, with everything that was happening in your life, or were you always a man of faith through family, through
So
parents?
yeah, I grew up in a Catholic church,
Mm.
and then when I moved to America, ego started to kick in because
Mm.
I'd gone from this little freckly faced ranger kid from Coffs Harbour to this baseball beast that told people I wrestle crocodiles, and living in Texas, and it was wild. And then I came home and got into the corporate world, and I love that saying, ego stands for edging God
Mm.
out. I allowed my ego to take over,
Mm.
and I really edged God out in that space in my life, and I thought that I could do it all myself, and I could do it all alone. And then I hit darkness when I invested all of my mum's money in 2018, right before the GFC hit, lost everything.
Wow.
I had to put her in a caravan park, was ashamed of the man that I'd become, and then got bacterial meningitis, got fluid on the brain, then had Bell's palsy down the right hand side of my body. And I remember my wife, she would come into bed every night into my room in the hospital and say, I love you and I'll see you in the morning. And I would always wait until she left, and I would say, I love you and goodbye, because for the first time I started speaking to God again. And what I was asking him is, let me go to sleep and not wake up. I
Mm.
didn't want to fight anymore. And I thought for such a long time that those footsteps in sand were my own, and I was all alone. But now I can reflect on that moment and realize that that was the moment in my life I was being carried. And I realized that the two greatest days in one's life is the day that we are born and the day that we discover why we are born. And for me, it was that dark moment that
Mm.
often we discover our why. And I found it. And that for me was just so key in that moment in your life where you ultimately surrender and
Yeah.
you give up control, and you realize that there is a plan for you far greater than you could ever
Mm.
predict, and walk with humility, walk with kindness, walk with faith. I had to say goodbye to my kids in 2022 when I was going in for my operation, and there was a chance that I could actually be saying goodbye to my kids. And I did a video teaching my son how to shave as a 3-year-old boy. And that's pretty heavy. But I remember so clearly, I gave them a hug at the airport, and there was no fear.
Mm.
There was no sadness. I just got to a point where I completely just walked in faith. And I think it was the first time in my life. At that stage, I was 38. It was the first time in my life where I finally felt free.
Mm.
And that's a beautiful place. Even though I was going into what could have been my last moment on earth, I finally felt free. And I think we strive so often to have other people value us and
Yeah.
have other people appreciate us and acknowledge us. And we strive so hard to be accepted by other people
Mm.
that we forget who we just need to be accepted by. And now to walk in faith and to have that freedom and finally actually love me for who I am,
Mm.
that has been a massive moment in my life that I've so desperately needed without even knowing that I hadn't got it. And
Mm.
now to be in that place of just worshiping God, but just being who I think he intends me to be,
Yeah.
with that ultimate love and gratitude for my beautiful wife and my gorgeous
Mm,
kids. You know, I know that when my time's up on this earth, that I've lived, I've
mm,
truly lived, I've been present, and I've tried to be the best version that I could be.
mm. And with your wife, so because we go to church every Sunday,
Mhm.
and man, it's the best feeling. You go into church with your partner, your spouse. How does it strengthen your relationship with your partner?
She
Is she a woman of faith? Like,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, for sure,
absolutely.
of
But
course.
she, I've no doubt she probably watched this. So I need to be mindful what I say. I love you, sweetheart. Often we forget that those that are outside the bed hurt the most.
Mm,
And, you know, I can only imagine the fear and the sadness and the pain saying goodbye to me at the airport and hugging those little kids and having to get our finances in order just in case. That's so heavy. I hope I never have to walk in her shoes. And I think I don't think I could love her any more than I already do. But every day I
mm,
wake up and I somehow find another piece of my heart that belongs to her. And, I think when you find your soulmate, you realize that regardless of the challenges this world throws at you, everything's going to be okay.
yeah.
And she is so courageous. She's so resilient. And yeah, her tank has suffered
Mm.
immensely. And I just want to do the best I can to help top that back up.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. That's
Mhm.
beautiful. I want to talk about like because a lot of people they don't value on something until it's gone. So a lot of my listeners, entrepreneurs, they value money until they lose something. For people with partners, they don't value their spouse, they don't value their partner, and it drives me crazy because I'm the same. Like I really value all my time with my beautiful fiance, soon to be wife next year.
Mm.
So what advice could you give spouses that maybe are taking their partners for granted?
Often we wait until it's too late before we decide to change.
Mm,
So I challenge everyone not to wait. We wait until we're diagnosed with lung cancer before we stop smoking. We wait until we lose someone that we love before we tell them that we love them.
yeah.
Living a life that is filled with regret is a life that's probably not worth living.
Mm,
And if you do have regret, the way you can release that regret is obviously through prayer and through faith because He forgives us for all. But I really think that um, to be ultimately present in the life that we live and truly hold on to the things that we love the most. The amount of people that I have met in my world, like I've been as a professional full-time speaker now for over a decade. I've worked with some of the highest paid professional athletes in the world,
wow.
some of the highest paid CEOs in this country and different parts of the world and everything in between. And there is a lot of common threads and themes that I see. And often the perception of success is what riddles their self value.
Mm,
They get into this space where they think that the next $1 million is what ultimately defines who they are.
mm,
And when you
yeah.
get caught up in that that currency world and that currency trade, not the value of who you are, not the impact that you're
Mm,
striving to have, that's when you can very, very quickly get lost.
yeah.
And I've seen so many people have the most spectacular homes, or should I say, the most spectacular houses that are not homes,
Yeah.
that I see when they invite me around and the house is empty, but their bank
Mm,
account is full. And seeing your kids every second weekend because you thought it was really, really important
mm,
to do your 80, 90 hours a week. I get it. I get it that we get into that world. I know when I transition out of corporate and into speaking that I had to do the hard yards. But I also realize now that there's got to be a time where you go, enough's enough.
yeah.
And it's time to prioritize what's truly important before it's too late.
Mm,
Because I don't want my kids to not know who I am.
mm,
And I certainly don't want to ever have to find someone else in this world that I love as much as I love my wife. I heard a great saying the other day, and it's a little more godly focused. So those that don't have faith, I apologize, but hopefully you enjoy the story. It's about like a guy on a treadmill and he's running on the treadmill and he's on level 2 but he wants to run at level 8, but he can't change it because God said you're on level 2. I need you to run at this pace. And he's like, yeah, but I want to run faster. I want to earn more money. I want to create more. I want to do this. I want to do that. That's this metaphor about this stuck on the elevator and trying to run your life at your speed as opposed to the speed that he wants you to run it at, right? And then they say, oh, I want to be married. I want to get married now. I want to meet someone. I want to get married now. And God says, yeah, but I want you to get married at 30. Like in 8 years' time, I want you to get married in 30 when you're 30. And he's like, yeah, but I want to get married now. And he's like, all right, that's cool. Get married now. But you'll also get married at 30. And when you get married at 30, you'll marry the right person, but there'll be a lot more scars. There'll be a lot more wounds. There'll be a lot more battles. There'll be a lot less money in the bank account.
Yeah.
So it's up to you. You can run now, get married, fall over, hurt yourself, and still find the love of your life at 30. Or you can follow your heart. You can listen. You can realize what's important. You can walk before you jog, before you run, before you sprint, and then ultimately get to that place when you're ready. And this is me just being super open and vulnerable. Like I got a gig in 2014 before I was ready for that gig. And what I mean by that is like now I've spoken at the MGM Grand, 15,000 people, like wild stuff right before Conor McGregor's fight. It was insane. It was awesome. But I got this gig in 2014 for a real estate guy, and I don't think I was ready. I still managed to get a great feedback and got a standing ovation and all that sort of stuff, but I wasn't ready. I really mean that I don't think that I was ready. And now I speak at global events in America, but I can't speak at the ARIC event in the Gold Coast because possibly the company that I spoke for, he might have a say in who speaks on that platform and says, no, I've heard him speak. I heard him speak 10 years ago and this is not ready. I wasn't ready back then. My story wasn't ready back then. I've evolved massively since then. So I guess the message behind that is, don't think you have to sprint before you've even managed the comfort of walking. And I think in that entrepreneur space, we want to make the millions. We want to have the perception of success. We want to have the Lambos. We want to have the fancy houses and the fancy holidays and doing promo reels in a private jet that's actually a box. Like you want that perception that you're successful. But I think what the world needs now is humility. Yeah. I think the world wants to see you struggle. I think the world wants to see you be kind. Yeah. I think the world wants to support you when you surrender, as opposed to, I want to be that guy that's got millions of followers and, and making the money, even though we're not really making the money.
Yeah. As we wrap up, Michael, my last question, I guess it's around, what do you think your purpose is from God now in your life? Because I want to unwrap this a bit more, because you've achieved a lot. You're doing so many things. Your impact is, off the Richter scale. What do you think God has in line with you right now for your purpose for the next 20, 30 years?
What's my purpose? What do I think my purpose is that God has abundantly blessed me with? Man, I think we can have many different purposes. I think one of them, is to be an epic dad. To be a really present dad, to be a real dad, to be a vulnerable dad, to be a supportive dad, to be what I ultimately prayed for as a boy. Now I get to be that guy for my kids, and that's for me really special. As you know, we have an orphanage and a school overseas, and for me, that's another big purpose. I think to be able to serve those that are so less fortunate than what we are, those that are, crippled in fear and anxiety, yet walk with such immense amount of faith in the darkness that they experience every day over there. An earthquake hit over there, 316,000 people died in a week. 8.5 million people on an island of 10 million are unemployed. Yet they get out of bed and they just hope and pray for a brighter tomorrow. To be able to serve those people, to be able to see their smile, to know that I'm impacting those people that will never be able to return the favor, for me is a purpose. I want to be that supportive, nurturing, kind husband that my beautiful wife deserves. And, maybe I'm in a position slowly but surely to be able to bring people closer to God
Mm.
and and even if it's not God, but just to bring people alignment
Yeah.
with what's important. To have people say, you know what, I want to reach the stars so I can impact more people, as
Yeah.
opposed to, I want to reach the stars because my bank account will be full. I want to reach the stars because then I'll get her and I'll be able to do that with them. And no, it's just, I want to reach the stars because then I can ultimately have the impact on the world that I want to have. But the only way we can get there is to eliminate ego, to
Yeah.
eliminate arrogance, to walk in that place where we just show kindness at every level and at every tier.
Mm.
And to remember that the people that you step on when you climb to the top are going to be there when you fall back down. And I think to show kindness when you're climbing the ladder, it just, you want to bring people on the journey with you and not knock them down. And I just hope that that's maybe one thing that those that are listening today can see. It's easy for me to say now because financially I'm in a wonderful position and I feel incredibly blessed by that. But even when I was striving, even when I was suffering, even when I was struggling,
Mm.
I had that ultimate desire to get on stage every day and make a difference in just one
Yeah.
person's life, and that was it. I've always said to my wife, if I ever get on stage and it's to make money, that's the day that I finish. If I ever get on stage and I don't cry, that's the day that I finish, because I'm starting to talk from here and not here.
Mm.
And that for me is so important. Find your purpose. Find why God put you on this earth. Find why God got you through the challenge that you may have experienced in your life. Because whilst ever you're breathing, he's not
Mm.
through with you yet.
Michael, thank you so much.
Pleasure,
Thanks, brother.
man.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Short, sharp. We got it done.
Of course, man.